Hello, I'm William Michael, the headmaster of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and I'm happy to share an important announcement today, namely that the Classical Liberal Arts Academy has been successfully approved for accreditation by Cognia, which is the world's largest accrediting agency. Now, for many who have known me through the years, it might seem that I'm not a person who would be really concerned with accreditation, and for the reasons that most schools are interested in accreditation, I'm not interested for those reasons. I'm not concerned that accreditation in some way validates the quality of our curriculum, because that's really not what it even evaluates. I'm not looking for accreditation as a reason why anyone should enroll in our program. I would hope that parents had better principles than accreditation for choosing a study program or school. I'm really happy to be accredited because one of our goals, one of the parts of the mission of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy has been to restore the classical liberal arts, not some fake classical education that just copies modern school models and tries to dress things up differently while committing all the same mistakes, but a school program that actually fixes the modern problems in education and actually restores historic Catholic education, classical Catholic education. When we get into Catholic studies, we learn that when it comes to the philosophical teaching of the Catholic Church, if we study philosophy, the history of the philosophy of religion, for example, we find that it comes to its peak in scholastic philosophy. And then when we look to modern Catholic schools, we don't find scholastic education. We don't find students being introduced to the history of Catholic philosophy or the development of Catholic philosophy. And that's one of the major problems in modern education, because modern Catholic schools have followed the modern public school model. They're stuck with a situation that's never going to be successful, namely large facilities, large faculties, trying to provide a vanilla education that satisfies as many people as possible and really ends up satisfying no one. So that's just a basic principle in business, that if you try to satisfy everyone, which is really a form of covetousness, trying to have your business or have your institution reach an audience that it really isn't supposed to reach, you end up failing to accomplish your mission, failing to serve the people well whom you're supposed to be serving, and you end up really doing nothing other than working to keep your own institution alive. And that's what we see in modern schools. So in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, when I first founded the academy back in 2008, people around me really thought it was crazy. They thought it was irrelevant. They thought it was outdated. They thought classical studies, as radically and completely as I wanted to present them, were obsolete and weren't acceptable in modern society. And so for me personally, getting the academy through accreditation was important for the simple reason that it proves all of that criticism and all of those excuses to be false. We can restore a real, unapologetic classical Catholic study program. We can create a model, or really restore a model of education that's nothing like modern schools. And the idea that it's obsolete or won't be accepted or can't be approved or won't be taken seriously is just false. It's not true. And our successful completion of the accreditation process proves that once and for all. If a modern school was going to boast about something, they would point to accreditation and say, you need to be accredited, and we need to do this and that, because in the modern age, in modern society, you really need to be accredited if you're a school. Well, that excuse that's been used has now been taken away because the Classical Liberal Arts Academy is going to be accredited in June. So our program is very radical, but what you can see is that contrary to all of the negativity, contrary to all the conspiracy theories in modern Christian culture, all of the, the use of crisis management to pretend that the world is out to get us and all these boogeyman, dangers to Christian culture, they're simply not true. And if we're courageous as Catholics, if we're confident as Catholics, we'll see that Catholic education in its purest and most ancient form will always be relevant because it's the best. I don't expect public schools to offer the best education. They can't. I don't expect any modern schools trying to have a large audience of students to offer the best education. They can't. But if we commit to the best education, historically and philosophically and theologically, the best education, it will always be relevant because God does not change, human nature does not change, the world we live in does not change. All of the chaos that we see in the world is man-made artificial chaos. It's not real. So when we restore what is the best, it's going to be no surprise that it succeeds because it's the best. And it's just a matter of time for it to manifest itself to be the best. And we've got to trust in it and allow it to do its work. And that's what we've sought to do in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. So in June, the directors of Cognia, which is the accrediting agency, they gather together for their final review, and they announce the accreditations. But we completed our accreditation evaluation, and a part of that process, there's all kinds of standards and things that we had to go through and provide evidence for. And at the end of it all of the standards, all of the evidence is gathered together by the evaluators, and they go through and rate everything. And there's a scoring system, institutional, I actually forget what the abbreviation stands for, but it's called an IEQ score, and it's an overall score that reflects the institution's quality based on those standards. And there's 3 different levels of scoring. The highest level is a score above 300. Any score above 300 meets or exceeds the requirements for accreditation. Many schools, when they go through this the first time, it's very difficult, very challenging process. When they go through the first time, they're not quite ready, and that's okay because the whole purpose of the accreditation process is to continually improve schools. And some schools, the first time they go through, they're just not ready, so they'll receive a score that's less than acceptable, but they may be admitted conditionally, it may be accredited conditionally, and they have to prove progress in certain things within the next year to maintain that status. But the highest level of scoring, 300 and above, meets accreditation standards, and the school's accredited for 3 years before their next review. In our first attempt, this is our first attempt through the accreditation process, we received an IEQ score of 320. So we're 20 points above the required score for accreditation on our first try, which is great. And we're, I think like 70 points above the average score for schools in the Cognia network, which includes over 32,000 schools in like 90 different countries. So not only have we managed to attain accreditation, we've done so successfully and with significant commendation on our first attempt, as I expected we would. So the good news is that we're accredited. The good news is that we're going to be able to move forward. The good news is we've got some points within our program to focus on for improvement in the future. And, over the next 3 years, we'll be able to do that before our next evaluation. So moving forward, the question may arise, so what does this mean? What are we actually going to do now that the program is accredited? And, on a large scale, really nothing. We're going to continue working to research, restore, publish, and teach the classical liberal arts curriculum, along with classical scholastic philosophy and theology. We're going to continue doing what we're already doing. There's never a need to change that. And like I said, all of the excuses that people make for abandoning those things, we've now proven to be false. So we're going to continue doing what we've been doing. But now with accreditation, we've got some ways to offer our students of all ages important benefits for use in their lives. The most important thing is that we're going to be offering Academy certificates for our courses and programs, and those certificates will bear the seal of accreditation for our students. So they'll be useful for students who are homeschooling, studying independently, complete courses. Some of the courses that our students study, a modern institution might not know what they even are. But the accreditation seal will give assurance to those institutions that our program is accountable to outside evaluation and submits to modern educational standards and surpasses them. So it'll lend some credibility. That's really the purpose of accreditation. Lend some credibility for people looking at our program who don't understand what we do, but do respect the accrediting agency. So it's beneficial in that way. So the certificate program will give students certificates for the courses they complete. All of the certificates will have different requirements. There will be many different certificates, and students can set those certificates as goals to work towards. And then when they complete the requirements, they can apply to have their work reviewed. And if everything looks good, they'll receive those accredited certificates. So that's the main way in which accreditation is going to benefit Academy students. And that's true for all students of all ages. So I announced the certificate program earlier this week, and we'll open up the certificates because we've got students who have already completed requirements for many of the certificates. But we'll open those certificates up excuse me, once that announcement of accreditation is officially made in late June, early July, so that all of those certificates will have the seal of accreditation on them. And, that will sort of bring that whole process to a completion. Again, excuse me. So with certificates, one of the reasons why the certificates are so important is that it allows us to keep our online courses simple, but offer, an infinite variety of different programs and resources. I'll give you an example. Earlier this school year, we had a religious sister in Italy who contacted us because she needed to improve her Latin studies. She had academic work that she wanted to do. I think she was a Dominican sister, had academic work that she wanted to do, but to qualify for that work, she had to prove proficiency in Latin reading. And she was looking for ways to do that and contacted me and asked if there was any way that I could help her to improve her Latin proficiency so that she could qualify for a program that she wanted to enter into. And so I was able to put, some recommendations together for her and align some courses that she could work through and make some special arrangements for her because she wasn't a normal student. And we just worked through that privately. And at the end, I wrote a recommendation letter for her based on what she had done. And we had no real method in place to address a situation like that. But now, with certificates, we can produce certificates for any situation that comes up, anything that's needed, set the requirements for those certificates, and then not only offer them for individuals who need them, but make them available for others. And like I said before, for students, the certificates are beneficial because they give the students goals to work towards, to add those certificates and just collect them in their portfolio, student records, so that when they do go on to apply to whatever institution they set as their destination, they can list courses and things that they've done on their transcripts. They can list things, talk about things in their college essays, but they can also furnish evidence that they have completed the programs that they claim to have completed, and they can do so with a seal of accreditation, which, as I said, lends some credibility to outside institutions. So really the benefit of accreditation for the Academy will be in the certificate programs. And again, what's good about certificate programs is that they will not in any way affect our course offerings. Our self-paced online courses will continue to develop just as they are. And all of the variety and all of the all of the distinctions, all the different circumstances that we might serve will all be handled through the certificates, not through the courses. And this will be a radical improvement over modern schools and how they do things. So that's the good news. The good news is classical Catholic education, real classical Catholic education, no compromising nonsense, no fake classical education, no appearances and shallow marketing gimmicks, but real classical Catholic education is continuing to be restored in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and to what I think is surely the surprise of many, it's going to be accredited. And really I can say it has been accredited because the process is over and we've received our passing score. So we'll receive official notification in June, late June, and then early July. We'll begin to be able to display the sign of our accreditation, and then we'll open up the certificate program and offer accredited certificates to our students. And then that brings us to the next question, which is whether we should pursue the development of a college degree program. And I've said to parents and students and even my wife, I've said I'm going to really ignore the college program, ignore talk about the college program until we're accredited. And if we see the Academy accredited, we'll take that as a sign, and we'll push forward with plans to offer a bachelor's degree in classical Christian studies. And now that accreditation is really completed and has been received, we'll begin talking about what's necessary to offer a bachelor's degree in classical Christian studies. And we might ask what would the purpose be of such a degree. It obviously wouldn't be to take into the secular workplace. That would not be the purpose. It would not be to take a degree from the Academy to a modern university for employment or anything like that, or even to apply for a secular study program. It would be for people who want to study the classical liberal arts curriculum, who want to demonstrate their mastery of the classical liberal arts curriculum, and have a degree that recognizes the work that they've done and testifies to it for use in private Catholic religious vocations, teaching, education, homeschooling, and so on. It would be a source of recognition for adults who have done the work of studying and mastering and demonstrating their mastery in the subjects to a degree that's significant enough to qualify for a bachelor's degree. So that program has already been approved by the state of North Carolina. We've been through that back in 2014. But now that accreditation is complete, we'll work out the certificate program first and then start looking at what we need to do to offer a bachelor's degree program, because it's going to be necessary in the future, especially as colleges are failing and struggling to function and operate. They can't figure out how to maintain sustainability. departments are going to be shut down to try to cut costs, and the departments that are going to be shut down are increasingly going to be classical studies, philosophical studies, language studies, and so on. And what we might consider to be the most important part of a Catholic education, modern colleges are not going to be able to afford to offer. So the opportunity is going to open up for a real classical Catholic degree program. And then once we get that established, it will be unaccredited, just like the Academy has been for the past 15 years. But we'll work over time to learn and prepare for accreditation even at the college level. And I'm confident that having made it through the school accreditation process as successfully as we have, considering how unlikely that might have seemed when we first started, I think looking forward to college accreditation may look intimidating at present, but when we get into it, because we know how to work through those processes in a creative way, from a classical Catholic perspective without compromise, I trust that we'll be able to do the same thing at the college level. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, we can talk about the bridge that has been crossed, and that's that the Classical Liberal Arts Academy has been approved for accreditation and should begin bearing that seal of accreditation in early July. So thank God for the good news and for helping us to get through this process, which was challenging but not overwhelming. And we should pray that God will help us now that we've established this footing in modern society with accreditation, that we'll be able to make good use of it and glorify Him and the Church by restoring real classical Catholic studies. So I'm happy to share that with you. I have to admit, I'm weary after this past semester. It's been a very difficult year because there's just been so much work to do. But we've got this behind us now, and we don't face a review or evaluation for 3 years. So we've got a time to catch our breath and reorganize ourselves and get some work done, and put accreditation behind us. So for those of you who have followed these updates over the past 2 years, I hope you find some satisfaction in hearing a successful report at the end. For those of you who prayed and helped us through this process, I'm very thankful. We couldn't have completed this as well as we did without the participation of parents and students who met with evaluators, shared their experiences, and so on. Wouldn't have done it without your help, so thank you. And for those who doubted and criticized the Academy, called us crazy, made excuses for why we can't do these things and why we need to accept modern errors as if they're inevitable and necessary, we got the last word. You're wrong. Accreditation does not require this lack of fidelity to classical Catholic studies or education, to scholastic philosophy, and so on. Doesn't require large facilities, doesn't require teachers with state teaching certificates. Any excuse that's made for abandoning traditional Catholic education for the sake of accreditation or acceptance in modern society is objectively false. We've proven that. So thanks for listening. I hope that's encouraging, and let's get to work. We've got a lot of studying to do. God bless.